All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee. Today is Monday, August 15th, 2016. I'm Paul Krikorian, Chair of the committee, flying solo for the moment. Mr. Blumenfield will be joining us shortly. So we're going to go ahead and start first with, we'll go ahead and take general public comment first. I have one general public comment card. That's Antonio Ramirez. So, Ms. Ramirez, if you could come on forward, and we'll go ahead and take your general public comment. And then when you're done with that, you can speak to the agenda items too, if you'd like, and just make one trip. So, Ms. Ramirez, you have 4 cards, so what I'd like to do is give you 1 minute on general public comment, 1 minute on each of the cards for 5 minutes total, please,
All
Richard.
right, thank you.
Let's go ahead and take 5 minutes.
Thank you very much.
After the first minute, which will be general public comment will be closed. So, since you're the only general public comment speaker. So go right ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's start with number 8. Item number 8. Ladies and gentlemen, why should we pay $12.4 million to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development funds and related actions upon receipt when there are still over 50,000 homeless United States military veterans and middle-class legal law-abiding citizens in impoverished conditions and are living on the streets? What these diabolical and wicked federal housing agencies have done is unlawfully subsidize all the illegal wetbacks and gangbangers. And so, again, why are we doing or contributing to something unlawful? It is wicked, it is heinous, and it is outrageous. So again, I say no, no, no to these federal housing agencies. The city of Los Angeles should not even be engaged in a joint venture with them, because what you're doing, if you pop your heads out the windows or walk outside, you will see what you have contributed to. That is homelessness, impoverishment, and complete shambles of the citizenry of America and Los Angeles. That's a shame. I would be embarrassed if I were a council member. I would be utterly embarrassed. And so I say no, no, no. Stick something else up there, you know what. And number 9, the Los Angeles Fire Department adopted budget. Let's do everything, ladies and gentlemen, to help our fire department, including buying them chopper pilots. Let us hire or let us buy these tankers from, if we have to, from Canada, or Sikorsky's aircraft to help douse fire retardant to avoid any catastrophic fires and blazing infernos out there, especially in the dry areas of Los Angeles forests. Please let us help and protect our fire department, because truly it is difficult what they do. No one is really able to do what they do. It takes a special kind of a breed to go out there and fight these blazing fires. So again, I salute these pilots, these fire department pilots and fire department and the Medivac. I salute them, because what they do, truly, it takes a high breed of a person to do what they do. God bless these fire department personnel and their living conditions. I salute them. And number 10, I'd like to go ahead and, going back to item number 9, the Los Angeles, they're trying to acquire 15 rescue ambulances and 1 August AW-139 helicopter. And as I did my research, the AW stands for Augusta Westland 139. It is a 15-seat medium-sized twin-engine helicopter developed and produced by the United States. It used to be with a joint venture with Augusta and Bell Choppers, but they withdrew. So now they are marketed, and these aircrafts are marketed for corporate aircrafts, law enforcement, fire department, search and rescue, etc. Interestingly, also, Augusta Westland aircrafts are owned They own their manufacturing facilities in Italy and then the USA. And then they also are produced in Russia by Helivert. So there's a joint venture by Augusta Westland and a Russian helicopters. So please say hello to Vladimir Putin. My respects to that man, because he is brilliant. He should run the FBI and the CIA in America, by the way. He'll do a better job than all the other buffoons we have right now. And so, again, yes, let us please provide exceptional aircrafts for our LAPD and our fire department. Let us be the best of the best, and let us provide and save lives. That's what we are now going to be doing, saving lives in Los Angeles, making lives whole in Los Angeles. And not only that, but let us also fix up their helipads, all the LAPD places or their landing pads. They are in shambles as well. They are downtrodden. They are in dilapidated areas, and they are not safe. So let us provide a state-of-the-art place that they can land their planes safely and or go airborne safely. Let us provide a museum and also a movie place where they can watch wonderful movies like the Black Hawk Down. Black Hawk Down. Let us make life for our helicopter pilots, whether they are fire department or LAPD. Let us provide them with a wonderful avenue of distraction while they sit down and wait for their next gig to fly out. Let us provide a nice cafeteria, diner. Let us provide them with everything that they have need of, but in a safe environment. That place downtown by Denny's is ghetto. Please, again, pilot safety is a priority. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, very much. That closes
Thank you,
general public
gentlemen.
comment, and it closes comment on all agenda items today other than item number 6. So with that, we'll go ahead to our, Mr. Blumenfield, I would have recommended items 7, 8, 9, and 10 for approval on consent, but the cards, now that that's done, if there's no objection, we can make a recommendation on those. We can't approve them without a quorum, but if that's agreeable to you, yes.
And Mr. Chair, for the record, did the committee wish to note and file item number 7?
Note and file item number 7, and then approve items 8, 9, and 10, or not, again, not approve, but give recommendation of chair and a member to council to approve those items.
I did have a question.
Okay, you want to? Okay, well, actually, let's just make that as to 7, 8, and 9, and then we'll consider number 10. Mr. Blumenfield has some questions for staff on that. So let's go next then to our closed session items, and I'll look to the city attorney to see whether there's any priority request. All right. Thank you all. We're back in session. If I can bring this meeting to order, please. We still have work to conclude. Thank you. I'd like to take up next item number 6.
So item number 6 is a City Administrative Officer report relative to the implementation of the 2016-17 revenue budget, Exhibit H, Revenue Enhancement and Department Fee Annual Reviews.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. This is Melissa Krantz from the Office of the CAO. So as was announced, this is a report that covers all the actions that were taken by Council to implement the 2016-17 budget with regards to revenue. So the report provides a summary of the Exhibit H items and their current status for implementation, as well as a summary of a fee review, and all of these actions that are recommended or discussed are necessary to fully realize the revenue budget and then, of course, make appropriations for our services to the citizens of the LA. So I can go through the report, or if you had specific questions, I can jump to those.
Mr. Blumenfield, what's your pleasure?
Either way, I've got some questions, but I'm happy to go through it if you want.
No, go right ahead with your questions.
All right. So with respect to the disposition of surplus properties to provide funding for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund,
Yes.
first step is, do we know when that's going to be taken up?
So the ordinance is still pending in both homeless and poverty committees and housing committees. I do not have an update as to why they're still pending, but it was released by the city attorney. With regards to the RFQ/P, that was released on July 25th, and the due date is September 15th.
Is Is there any, do we have any indication of the level of interest in that?
Unfortunately,
Or is that, or are you even allowed to tell us?
I could tell you that Ben Sahel with the CAO, we recently had a bidders conference for several properties that were listed, and we had 113 attendees, on that, which were well beyond what we were expecting.
That's great.
Yes, and so the expectation is that we will receive some responses September 15th, I believe, and then be back in a committee. I'm not sure which specific committee. I think it might be first MFC and then the Facilities Committee soon thereafter with a list of potential firms or entities.
With respect to the TOT revenue from short-term rentals, what are we doing to ensure that the property owners who use platforms other than Airbnb are also paying the TOT? Like the VRBO lists 4,000 properties in LA.
so the Office of Finance here, so they could speak to their methods. I do know that they're implementing an outreach program, but I'm sure they could elaborate further.
Good afternoon, Selwyn Hollins, Assistant Director, Office of Finance. There's a number of efforts we've already begun. One is we are communicating with, I think it's 23 hosting platforms beyond Airbnb through letter to not only address this issue, but also to have them engage in maybe in-person meetings or conference calls with us to further guide them and to ensure that that takes place. We have also, we're in talks with finalizing a contract with a firm who could assist us in identifying hosts out there so we can go to hosts as well directly and communicate with them through correspondence to try to encourage them to not only what's required of TOT, but to be registered with our department. But in reality, we do know that it is not something that hosts really are eager to do. And because we don't have an enforcement arm, outside of the correspondence, we are looking to work with the mayor's office in a workshop where we invite people to hopefully come down and talk and understand what it's about so that we can deter some of the fears that they may have in registering with us.
And then, I mean, it was thought the best way to get through to all the hosts is, use their own weapons against them, so to speak. Use the platforms themselves because that's where you can find everybody. Are we doing that, or is that what this company is going to use?
And more specifically?
Well, so when you have to contact the individual hosts, as opposed to just to companies themselves, but to let people know that they do have this information. It's always tricky to find out who they are and where they are, except for the fact that they're all listing themselves on websites, even though sometimes it's anonymized. But you can use those platforms to contact the people advertising. Are we going about through their own platforms to contact the hosts themselves, sending correspondence?
Right. The initial communications with the 23 hosting platforms, that's to try to get them to help with the advertising, the communicating with their hosts. The other element where I talked about the other firm, that's more of a web scraping functionality where even if the hosting platforms didn't, we still have means to find out. And the other thing we do receive information from the Franchise Tax Board, which helps us to indicate who could be out there doing this type of work. So we have other mechanisms, but again, it's a lot of the numbers of hosts that are in the LA market is pretty excessive, and people come in and out of that line of work. So it's going to be a challenge for us, an ongoing challenge.
And some of the VRBOs include 14% tax in their posted rates. Is that presumably that is the TOT?
Yes.
Okay, but obviously there's a lot of them if you just click around a lot that don't include that as part of their rate.
Yeah, most of them that we've researched do not make reference to the tax requirement. And that's why we want to engage them in conversation to maybe assist them in what types of information they could put on their sites, the links, and then also what other, opportunities we can have to communicate directly with their hosts.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't think I have anything for the moment.
So there is a recommendation in the report, of course, for our office to report back on the status of fee studies. As during part of our review, we realized some departments are quite behind in their fee analysis. So we hope to include something in the first FSR on that.
Thank you. I do have one card on this item, so thank you very much. From Chiruni Patibanda. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, council members. Charuni Petibanda from the Glazer Weil Law Firm, and I'm on behalf of the California Hotel and Lodging Association, which is part of a broader coalition that includes workers, neighbors, tenants, and affordable housing advocates. This morning, our coalition submitted a letter regarding this agreement before you with Airbnb. As you're aware, the planning department spent countless hours hearing testimony and studying the home sharing industry in Los Angeles and proposed a thoughtful and well-balanced ordinance that will be in front of the council in the coming weeks. Our coalition believes that entering into a deal like this with Airbnb before the ordinance is passed is counterproductive to the efforts of the city and all of the stakeholders that have been involved in this public process. The agreement with Airbnb gives legitimacy to an illegal industry and further confuses the rules and regulations proposed for actual home sharing in the city. In addition, and even more concerning, is that the agreement does not require Airbnb to disclose any data in order for the city to verify the TOT amounts that are collected. If you don't mind, could I?
Please, Kurt.
Thank you. We believe that any agreement done with the short-term rental platforms must include a requirement to disclose data from the host so that the city can verify all of the TOT received and remitted by the platforms. And these agreements really should be delayed until after the ordinance is in effect so as to promote the effective and efficient enforcement of the new laws. We appreciate your consideration of these issues, and we look forward to talking about this more and to the adoption of the draft ordinance when it comes to council.
Thank you. And just for the record, I agree with all of what you said except the conclusion, and that is we will continue to work on all of those issues as we move towards the regulatory ordinance. But this tax is owed to us now, whether these are legitimate businesses or entirely illegal businesses. They still have the obligation to pay the tax. And so from my perspective, this is an agreement that helps us pay the tax. It does not legitimize the businesses. That will be done by a separate, if it's done at all, it will be done by a separate ordinance that encompasses a regulatory scenario that's not before us today. That's the way I'm looking at this. So, but thank you. So with that, it will be the action of the committee, it will be the action of Mr. Blumenfield and myself to recommend to council approval of the recommendations. Yeah. And that finally brings us to item number 10.
Item number 10 is a motion by Councilmembers Kretz and Huizar relative to an instruction to the City Administrative Officer with the assistance of the Los Angeles Department of Transportation to report on potential sources of funding, including Special Parking Revenue Fund, to finance the costs associated with additional public parking for the Pico Robertson Senior Community Apartments.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. So I'm trying to figure out on this one the process, because there's demand for city parking in commercial districts all over the city, including areas that don't have any municipal off-street parking. Trying to figure out what process we use in deciding how to use the SPRF funds to do additional parking facilities. There's certainly areas in my district that need it, areas all over the city that need it. This project, as it was written, I don't think required this. The proposal is to basically make it more acceptable to the community. Is that correct?
I'm David Harana with the office.
Name for the record, sir.
David Harana with the office of the CAO. I think we are also in the process of trying to figure out what the motion is asking us. So we're in conversations right now with the housing department to try and get better detail about the project, background about the project as well. So I'm not sure we're in the position where we can answer all those questions yet. The only question I can answer at this point is that the process of identifying projects can be done through motion, can be done through the budget. We prefer to do it through the budget or through some mechanism that allows us to plan. If you have projects or areas that you would like DOT to look at, you're more than welcome to submit a motion or to include that in the budget process. And
I mean, I'm not against looking into this or against this project. We need affordable housing.
Yeah.
We need parking. I just want to make sure that when we figure out how we're going to spend limited resources on parking, that we're doing it in a way that makes sense and that's fair for the entire city, not just whoever sort of gets in first.
Understood.
Yeah. And just to make sure the record is clear on this, although Mr. Kretz is not here to speak to the motion, the objective of this motion is merely to get that report, and there will be no appropriation, there will be no
Correct.
indication of a policy direction or anything else without that report first coming back here and then to council as well, because I share the concerns you've expressed about equity and other things. But we'll be able to consider all those things once the report comes back.
Correct. And the only thing about the motion is there's a very aggressive timeline that's asked for 10 days. And so we've started conversations already. I'm not sure if we'll still be able to hit 10 days, but we're going to try to get that report back as quickly as we can.
Okay. So, very good. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So it will be the action of the Chair and Mr. Blumenfield to recommend approval of this item. And there being no other items before us, we are adjourned.